Top stories for today, September 7, 2020. The PNP files charges against the 9 cops involved in the killing of several soldiers in Jolo, Sulu. The government is boosting efforts to flatten the COVID-19 curve this September. 3 attached agencies of the PCOO received the highest audit rating for 2019. And Task Force Bangon Marawi plans to prioritize providing housing to landless indigenous peoples in Marawi City. Good day, I am Rom Dulfo. Welcome to PNA Newsroom. Our top story, administrative complaints have already been filed against 9 police officers and 3 of their unit commanders in connection with the fatal shooting of 4 intelligence officers of the Philippine Army in Jolo, Sulu last June. The Philippine National Police Internal Affairs Service, or PNPES, has also formally filed admin cases against 3 police commissioned officers who are direct superiors of the 9 respondents for gross neglect of duty under the doctrine of command responsibility. The 3 other respondents are Colonel Michael Bawayan, Provincial Director of Sulu Provincial Police Office, Major Walter Anayo, Relieved Chief of Jolo Municipal Police Station, and Captain Ariel Corsino, Chief of the Drug Enforcement Unit of Sulu Police. Amid criticisms in the last days, the city government of Manila has expressed its full support on the implementation of the Manila Bay Beach Nourishment Project. Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso says he trusts that the DENR knows better on the issue amid claims of some groups that the crushed dolomite boulders is dangerous to the environment. He said the city of Manila is grateful to the national government for giving attention to the cleanliness of the bay and will do its share in reviving the beauty of Manila Bay. The DENR and the Manila Bay Task Force are on Phase 1 of the Manila Bay Beach Nourishment Project, with the overlaying of sand expected to be finished by September 19. The government says it is determined to flatten the curve this September. Defense Chief Delfin Lorenzana says this is the goal for this month, as a decrease in the number of COVID-19 cases in the country means we can already shift to modified general community quarantine, or MGCQ. To flatten the curve, Lorenzana said the local government units, especially the barangay, must work closely with the national government, which can provide the resources needed to implement the prescribed quarantine and biosafety protocols. Lorenzana is one of the heads of the National Task Force against COVID-19. The government assures the continuous distribution of Social Amelioration Program, or SAP, despite the risk of COVID-19 infection. DSWD Undersecretary Rene Glenn Paje said many of the DSWD staff involved in SAP distribution have been infected with the dreaded virus and under quarantine. He says SAP distribution for the second tranche will still continue, as their staff are not taking any risks and are trying to complete the delivery of the financial aid. Aside from SAP distribution, the DSWD is also implementing other programs such as assistance to individuals in crisis situations, feeding program for children, Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program, and social pension for indigent senior citizens. More measures are being implemented in the key cities of the metro to contain the spread of COVID-19. Here's our report.
Local government units in Metro Manila are coming up with more measures to curb the spread of COVID-19. In Quezon City, 4 hybrid hand-washing facilities are set up for public use. The general public frequenting the QC Hall complex, patients and medical frontliners of the Kamuning and Murphy Super Health Centers, as well as the 64 locally stranded individuals, are immediate beneficiaries of these hand-washing facilities. This hybrid infrastructure design is said to be more reliable and sustainable because it has direct access to clean water and connection to a drainage system. In Pasay City, a quick response code system, or QR code, is being used to bolster its contact tracing efforts. The QR code technology was designed to provide a real-time update of information and data to the city's contact tracing command center whenever an individual enters an establishment. All residents and commercial establishments may soon be required to use the Pasay QR code COVID-19 Tracer app to further contribute to the city's contact tracing efforts. In Pasig City, healthcare personnel on duty are provided with free accommodation, while those who are forced to isolate themselves will receive a regular hazard pay. Mayor Vico Soto said the city government is still in need of more healthcare professionals. Interested healthcare professionals may send their applications through email via pasigcovidtf@gmail.com. For the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo.
Still to come, 3 attached agencies of the PCOO received the highest audit rating for 2019. President Duterte's economic team calls for the swift passage of the proposed 2021 budget. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Sa matinding laban natin sa Coronavirus Disease 2019, sugpuin din natin ang pagkalat ng fake news. Huwag magbahagi ng impormasyon na hindi tiyak ang pinagmulan. I-check mabuti ang source ng balita. Kumuha lamang ng impormasyon mula sa mga official channel ng Department of Health. Huwag magpadala sa maling balita, basta't sama-sama at laging handa. Kaya natin to. Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito. Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa. Kaya natin to. Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching PNA Newsroom. Thank you for joining us. Some 3 attached agencies of the Presidential Communications Operations Office, or PCOO, received the highest audit rating from the Commission on Audit. COA gave the News and Information Bureau, or NIB, Bureau of Communication Services, and the Presidential Broadcast Staff, Radio Television Malacanang, an unqualified opinion on the fairness or presentation of the respective financial statements for 2019. NIB, which supervises the Philippine News Agency, received the highest audit rating for the 3rd straight year. This is also an improvement from 2016. In 2019, NIB received a recognition from the Government Quality Management Committee, or GQMC, for successfully establishing a quality management system certified to International Organization for Standardization, or ISO 9001-2015. The BCS, which also received GQMC recognition last year, received its highest audit rating for the 4th straight year, while the government's media arm, PBS-RTVM, last highest audit rating was in 2016. The unqualified audit opinion is considered the best a government agency can receive from COA. It is issued when auditor believes that a state office has fairly and appropriately presented, without any identified exceptions, its financial statements during the audit. PCOO Secretary Martin Andanar welcomed the accomplishment made by the 3 attached agencies. In a statement, Andanar lauded the NIB, BCS, and RTVM in fighting all forms of corruption in any government transaction, especially those that involve the PCOO. He says the commitment of PCOO and its attached agencies to provide full accountability reflects the Duterte administration's fight against corruption. He also ensured that no taxpayers' money is wasted on unnecessary or anomalous transactions or end up lining the pockets of unscrupulous government officials. Other provinces implement stricter measures to lessen the number of COVID-19 cases in their area. Here is a roundup report from Marita Muahe.
An intensified border control is implemented in Baliwag, Bulacan starting today. Mayor Ferdy Estrella said they are hoping that this will reduce the number of positive cases in their town, as 61% of their cases have a history of travel to high-risk areas like the National Capital Region. Those who are working in NCR are advised to rent a room or apartment near their workplace. In Bacolod City, leisure travelers are prohibited from entering from September 6 to 19 while the city is under a month-long general community quarantine. This is to strictly regulate and prevent interzonal movement for leisure trips, travels, and leisurely interaction of people intending to enter the city. However, out-of-town residents who have essential business will be allowed to enter Bacolod. These include but not necessarily limited to government officials and government frontline personnel, health and emergency frontline services personnel, private sector employees who have to work on-site in the city, and business owners who have to personally supervise their business in the city. In Cebu, the local government is seeking the resumption of operations of traditional jeepneys, saying they can significantly help commuters and PUJ drivers. The whole Cebu mainland has shifted to MGCQ, or the least strict quarantine measure in the country. Under MGCQ, traditional PUJs are allowed to return on the roads. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Marita Muaje.
Senator Sonia Angara is pushing for faster and more efficient transactions in both the government and private sectors through digital payments. Angara says our experience with the COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the need to institute digital payment systems and to have every Filipino benefit from cashless transactions. Angara filed Senate Bill 1764, or the Use of Digital Payments Act of 2020, to help fast-track the adoption of digital payments for financial transactions of the government and all merchants. A counterpart measure to the bill is also filed in the lower chamber by Bataan Representative Jose Enrique Garcia. Senate Bill 1764 seeks to provide the enabling environment to accelerate the adoption of digital payments in the country. Under the bill, all national government agencies, government-owned and controlled corporations, and LGUs will be required to utilize safe and efficient digital payment in the collection of taxes, fees, tolls, imposts, and other revenues, and in the payment of goods, services, and other disbursements. In our business news, President Duterte's economic team has sought the swift enactment by Congress of the proposed 2021 national budget of 4.5 trillion pesos. The Duterte administration is also urging lawmakers to act on several priority measures designed to accelerate economic recovery and make support available for those that were hit hard by the COVID-19-induced global crisis. Finance Chief Carlos Dominguez III thanked lawmakers for passing a fiscally responsible Bayanihan to Recover as One Act, or Bayanihan 2. He said the other measures that require prompt action are the Financial Institutions Strategic Transfer, or FIST Act, the Government Financial Institutions Unified Initiatives to Distressed Enterprises for Economic Recovery, or GUIDE Bill, and the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises Act, or CREATE. Dominguez says the swift reenactment of these measures will serve to accelerate the country's economic recovery. The Duterte administration will also continue to work in passing the remaining packages of the comprehensive tax reform program. Up next, Task Force Bangon Marawi plans to prioritize providing housing to landless indigenous peoples in Marawi City. And national athletes are set to receive discount IDs to aid them through the pandemic. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Tandaan ang tamang paraan ng paghuhugas at paglilinis ng kamay upang makaiwas sa iba't ibang karamdaman. Basain ng tubig ang mga kamay at sabunin. Unang sabunin ang mga palad at ang likod ng mga kamay. Kuskusin na maigi ang pagitan ng mga daliri at maging ang mga kuko. Isunod ang pagitan ng mga hinlalaki at kuskusin ng paikot ang mga dulo ng mga daliri sa magkabilang palad. Banlawang mabuti ang mga kamay sa malinis na tubig at patuyuin ang mga kamay gamit ang single-use towel o air dryer. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito. Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
The government will prioritize providing permanent housing units to internally displaced persons who don't have land titles and those who are living in the danger areas of Marawi City. Task Force Bangon Marawi Chair and Housing Czar Secretary Eduardo Del Rosario says around 3,500 IDPs formerly living inside the most affected area are in need of housing assistance. Those families living in the danger zones along Agus River and in front of Lake Lanao will also be prioritized in the housing projects of the government. Based on the task force's data, a total of 2,000 permanent shelters are now under construction through the National Housing Authority, which are set to be completed by June 2021. Del Rosario reiterates the rehabilitation efforts in Marawi City is on track and is set to be completed by December 2021. Former rebels are rejoining society with the help of the government's livelihood assistance. More on this from Christine Lynn Viajante.
The Department of Trade and Industry continues to pursue its commitment to supporting peace-building initiatives and reintegration program for the former rebels. 13 former members of ISIS-linked Dawla Islamiyah local terrorist groups start anew and move forward with the sari-sari store starter kits from the department.
Ang gusto lang po naming makita ay magsimula po kayo. Dahil kung makikita po namin nagsimula po kayong mag-business at malaki po ang potensyal na i-recommend po namin ito sa ibang multi-donor or agency ng gobyerno para po mabigyan kayo at para po mapalago itong negosyo ninyo.
Pineda also shared that DTI's assistance does not end with starter kits. She said that the agency is also committed to helping them in marketing their products. Meanwhile, to motivate FRs, both the military and Task Force Bangon Marawi encourages them to pursue in business.
Itong binigay nito ay symbolic lang ito. Maliit na halaga lang ito. Ngunit ito po ay first step, no? Hindi tayo makapag-ambisyon ng bigger steps unless meron tayong initial step.
Sana ito bigyan ninyo ng halaga, pagkaingatan, i-propagate into a big business para makakatulong sa inyong pamilya, and at the same time may paabot natin sa ating community na kung saan kayo nakakabilang na nandoon yung ating dedikasyon para magbago at bumalik sa tinatawag nating mainstream society.
An open forum was also held in order for the FRs to voice out their sentiments and concerns to the government. For PNA Newsroom, Christine Lynn Viajante of PIA Iligan City Information Center.
An activist reportedly accompanying communist rebels was killed in an encounter with the Philippine Marines in Brooks Point, Palawan. Southern Luzon Command Chief Lieutenant General Antonio Parlade Jr. questioned the involvement of Ren Manalo, a Gabriela official in Mindoro and member of activist fishers group Pamalakaya, in the encounter on September 3. Parlade requested Karapatan Secretary General Cristina Palabay to explain why Manalo was doing embedded work with the NPA's Bienvenido Vallever Command in Palawan. Manalo was one of the 5 communist rebels, including 3 ranking New People's Army leaders who were killed in the encounter. Parlade, meanwhile, said CPP-NPA suffered another setback when 6 regular members and 48 volunteers surrendered in Occidental Mindoro last week. 11 indigenous peoples NPAs and 2 Special Operations Group members also returned to the folds of law, while 4 NPA officials were killed. With these results, Parlade said plans to re-establish bases in Mindoro have proven a failure. National athletes can now enjoy the discount privileges they much deserve as the Philippine Sports Commission, or PSC, released 2 batches of identification cards and discount booklets that they can use while buying essentials. More than 1,000 discount kits have been given to national athletes and coaches. The release of the discount privileges is timely as all the sportsmen are hampered by the COVID-19 pandemic. Manuel Bitog, the PSC Division Chief for Assistance and Coordination, said that the 3rd batch of discount IDs and booklets is expected to be released by the 3rd week of September. The 20% discount to national athletes and coaches is pursuant to RA 10699, or the National Athletes and Coaches Benefits and Incentives Act. The town of San Benito in SIARGAO Island is set to open a new tourist destination despite the continuing threat of COVID-19. San Benito Mayor Gina Sumando Menil says the 2.2-kilometer surfing aerial zipline will formally open on Tuesday. Menil said riding through the zipline will allow visitors to see the mangroves in San Benito, their local version of Chocolate Hills, and the islets covered with white sand. She adds, the mangroves in San Benito are the oldest in SIARGAO and are home to species of marine resources and birds, especially wild ducks. Though health protocols in Surigao del Norte are still in effect, Menil emphasized the importance of informing the public that the aerial zipline is now open to accept tourists who love thrill and adventure. A student from the sleepy town of Tarangnan, Samar, has been fighting lockdown stress by making portraits that come alive on leaves. 21-year-old Ryan Rio Legato Managaysay has already made 15 leaf artworks, among them portraits of President Rodrigo Duterte, Pope Francis, Senator Manny Pacquiao, broadcaster Jessica Soho, TV host Wille Revillame, and Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, and Samar Representative Shari Ann Tan. Aside from planting sweet potato and cassava in their village in Binalayan, Tarangnan town, Managaysay spends most of his time doing artworks on basket fern, locally known as salikupkop. Managaysay is a second-year secondary education student at the Samar State University. His mentor at SSU, Jonil Bahado, was the first to share his students' leaf artwork via social media. Managaysay encouraged other artists not to hesitate to share their talents with others through various platforms. We take another look at today's biggest stories. The PNP files charges against the 9 cops involved in the killing of several soldiers in Jolo, Sulu. The government is boosting efforts to flatten the COVID-19 curve this September. 3 attached agencies of the PCOO received the highest audit rating for 2019. And Task Force Bangon Marawi plans to prioritize providing housing to landless indigenous peoples in Marawi City. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, check our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more news about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that really those of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I am Rom Dulfo. Good day and keep safe.